Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy this video, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing what is frankly a ridiculous watch. This is the Richard Mille RM028 Diver in red gold. The kind of person who buys this watch isn't going to be the person who says, "This isn't ridiculous, I take it very seriously." No, it's going to be the person who says, "This watch is ridiculous and I love it for that quality." And truly, it is a lovable watch, easy to wear even on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. This wonderfully excessive 300-meter diver is 47 millimeters in diameter, so you can see it wearing on a 16 centimeter circumference wrist. Despite being almost 50 millimeters in diameter, it is thick at 15.7 millimeters, but you can see that the shape of the case, like the Richard Mille tonneau case, it has a little bit of a camber built in, and despite a lug-to-lug measurement of 56 millimeters, which frankly is huge, it's the shape of the lugs, the shape of the case, and the shape of the strap that allow this watch to sit securely on a wrist, I'm going to say as small as 15 centimeters circumference. So while it's excessive, it's also very secure and sits quite comfortably. I've worn any number of Rolex watches that are smaller and less comfortable. Now let's talk a little bit about the strap, because it's integral to the case and integral to the look. As you can see, it is very consistent. Not only does it perfectly match the slope of the lugs when viewed from the side, it also matches the taper of the lugs when viewed from the top, and it features a little bit of the hollowed profile of the case band that continues into the strap. There are striations to give it a bit more definition, and then you can see it actually thins out considerably as it moves toward its bottom, and there are air pockets inside to allow the wrist to aerate a bit, rather than the G&F Chatelain spring deployant clasp that you find on most Richard Mille watches. You get a pin buckle for easy adjustability, so if you need to throw this over a wetsuit or make adjustments as activity and wrist swelling dictate, you've got the ability to do that with the pin buckle. You can see the spline screws on the flank, the signature of the brand, they're all over the watch, front and back, so it's nice to see the design continuity in the buckle. You can see that the case itself is evacuated, and it almost has the look of something half finished or incomplete, as the structural flanks of the case include the tunnels for the spline screws that join the top of the case to the mid case to the back of the case. So these columns are actually vessels for the threading of the screws. You can see that the case band is vertical satin finish, and there are very few polished facets on this case, but you can see one of them on the lip of the underside. You can really get a sense of just how cambered the case is when you look at it from underneath. The crown features a rubber shoulder, and it's made of titanium, and it is very easy to actuate. It's a screw down, of course. There are shear guards made of solid gold. Those also have a wonderful sculpted machine-like aesthetic to them. You can see that the crown features a very secure mounting and a thick stem and stem tube assembly. It doesn't wobble like many sports watch crowns will when withdrawn, so the feel is excellent. You can see that the lugs are sharply faceted in form. They have that hard geometry to them, and then there's a little bit of a polished lip on the underside of the mobile bezel. The bezel is a unidirectional rotating dive bezel, and it's heavily dished. You can see how it slopes from the outside in to give the watch a little bit of a concave profile when viewed from the top. Now, there is a system by which you actually press these two triggers and then you adjust the bezel. So the bezel is locked in place as well as unidirectional. What you want to do is you want to line up the luminescence index with the minute hand, and now you've got an impromptu 0 to 60 minute timer. And you can see the spline screws run amok on this particular bezel. You've got red coloration through the first critical 15 minutes of your dive, and this is a wonderful way to time something. If you don't want a chronograph, a dive bezel, in my opinion, is even more effective because it's simply easier to read a minute hand against a 60-minute scale. Now, the dial base itself is effectively one and the same as the movement. PVD coated to darken it and add definition. It's been skeletonized. It is grade 5 titanium, and you can see that the watch features a carbon fiber flange outboard of the center dial. Each one of the individual luminescent indices is mounted on that carbon fiber flange in black. And then you have a second sapphire under the primary sapphire. The second sapphire features the red crosshair pattern, the numerals and the indices, as well as the frame for the date. It is a stop seconds watch, so you can stop everything and synchronize precisely to a reference time, such as a dive timer. And then you've got a quick set function for the date. So if you wish, you can rapidly cycle the date, which is sitting down at 7 o'clock. The date disc is a skeletonized sapphire, or I should say a series of numerals on a sapphire in its own right. Now you can see the sapphires that compose the pivots of the movement are all clear on this watch. So for example, you can see the sapphire on the balance staff is completely clear, so it's a techno-aesthetic, not really traditional watchmaking, though the traditional norms of watchmaking are respected. You can see through the case back, the movement also made of titanium. Let's start with the rotor. White gold variable inertia wings, so you can change the polar moment of inertia to tune the watch to wind more vigorously or less vigorously depending on your activity level. This is done when the watch goes into the Richard Mille watchmaker. Unidirectional winding for efficiency, ceramic rotor bearings sealed for life. You could see that there are actually 4 points at which the movement is fixed to the case, and those 4 points feature rubber donuts that act as a shock protection system for the movement. The balance beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It's adjusted in 5 positions like a chronometer, and it is free sprung for shock resistance. You can also see that the balance, I'm going to thread the crown out one more time, features a distinctive set of variable inertia bolts on a blackened wheel, so it's a distinctive Richard Mille balance. 32 joules, twin mainspring barrels for very even torque release from maximum wind to minimum wind. There's none of the Rolex style drop off in amplitude after 24 hours, and the twin barrels give you a 55-hour power reserve. All of this highly shock resistant thanks to the bumpers. Grade 5 titanium with minimal mass, and nicely decorated in what can only be described as a sort of industrial chic look. It's very effective, and it's very Richard Mille. You can see and you can purchase this wonderfully ridiculous Richard Mille RM28 diver in red gold on the watch box. Richard Mille RM28 by night, powered by a highly modified Vaucher automatic, ticking away reliably in the darkness.